Hello and welcome to Wednesday's Wellness Tip. I'm Julie Crane and thank you for joining me today. Now, if you tried to join me today live, you may have noticed I was having some connectivity issues. So I tried several times and finally gave up and just thought I'll go ahead and do this as a recording and post it. So today we are still on our series of Nutrition 101. And we're going to be starting our discussion on the third macronutrient. So if you recall from earlier, macronutrients are what's on our plate. That's the meat, the vegetable, whatever we see, those are macronutrients. And the three macronutrients include carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And so we've had our discussions on carbohydrates and fats. And so today we're going to begin our discussion on proteins. Now, protein, the word protein actually comes from the Greek word proteos, which means primary or first place. Proteins are made up of smaller molecules called amino acids, and these join together to form long chains. So you can think of a protein as like this string of pearls, and how each one of these pearls is an amino acid. And so together they form this chain that is the protein. And it's actually the protein structure, chain structure, that determines its chemical makeup and therefore the purpose that it is used for in the body. So your body is made up of a lot of different kinds of proteins. And there are actually 23 different kinds of amino acids that help form the thousands of different proteins in your body. Proteins do most of their work inside the cell, and they perform various functions. So today, that's what we're going to be really focusing on, is what are the critical functions that proteins do for us in our bodies that help keep us alive and well. Now, the first one is they participate in the growth and maintenance of tissues. Proteins in the body are under a constant state of turnover. So under normal conditions, your body's going to break down the same amount of protein that it uses to build and repair the tissues that it's working on. So there is just this constant need to replace and repair, and so break down the protein. But at other times, it actually breaks down more protein than what it can create, thus increasing the body's need for protein. So this happens in times of illness, during pregnancy, and when breastfeeding, for those people that are recovering from an injury or a surgery. Older adults oftentimes need more protein, and athletes certainly require more protein as well. So if you just kind of remember that proteins are required for the growth and maintenance of tissues, and that your body's protein needs are really dependent upon your health and your activity level. Now, the second thing that proteins do for us is they also do provide energy. Now, proteins contain 4 calories per gram, which is the same amount of energy that carbohydrates provide. Again, 4 calories per gram. This is compared to fats, where we get most of our energy comes in at 9 calories per gram. But actually, protein is the last thing that your body wants to use for energy. And this is because this valuable nutrient, this protein, is needed and used widely throughout the body. And so carbohydrates and fats are really much better suited to provide us with energy. And this is because our body's able to maintain reserves of carbohydrates and fats to be able to use them for fuel. Carbohydrates and fats are also metabolized more effectively and efficiently compared to protein. And in fact, protein supplies our body with very little bit of its energy needs under normal circumstances. But if we're in a state of fasting, say we fasted for a minimum of 18 hours up to 48 hours, and we've had no food intake, your body will start to break down skeletal muscles so that the amino acids can supply you with energy. Your body also uses amino acids from broken down skeletal muscle if your carbohydrate storage is low. So if you're eating very minimal carbohydrates, your body's going to turn to breaking down muscle in order to get the energy. So this can occur if you've been involved in really exhaustive exercise, or again, if you don't consume enough calories in general, or your carbohydrates are very limited. So again, think of this as just proteins can serve as a valuable energy source, but really only in situations of fasting, exhaustive exercise, or inadequate calorie intake. Now, the third thing that proteins do in our body is they provide structure. So what do I mean by that? Well, some proteins are fibrous and they provide cells and tissues with stiffness and rigidity. These proteins include things like elastin, collagen, and keratin. And these help form the framework of certain structures in our body. So like elastin is several hundred times more flexible than collagen. Its high elasticity allows many tissues in your body to return to their original shape after stretching or contracting. So things that this might involve are the uterus, our lungs, and our arteries. We want to have that elastic ability for them to stretch. Now, collagen is the most abundant protein in your body. It is the structural protein of your bones, tendons, ligaments, and your skin. While keratin is a structural protein that is found more in your hair, your nails, and your skin. So again, with this, we just want to remember that proteins, certain classes of proteins that are known as fibrous proteins, provide various parts of your body with structure, strength, and elasticity. Now, the fourth thing that proteins do in our body is they cause biochemical reactions. Now, there are certain proteins that are enzymes. Now, enzymes are proteins that aid in the thousands of biochemical reactions that take place within and outside the cell. So the structure of the enzyme allows them to combine with other molecules inside the cell called substrates, which catalyze or cause or accelerate reactions that are essential to your metabolism. Enzymes may also function outside the cell, such as digestive enzymes like lactase or sucrase, which help you digest sugar. So some enzymes require other molecules, such as vitamins and minerals, in order for there to be able to have a reaction that takes place. So they require that. Now, there are many bodily functions that depend on enzymes, and these include digestion, energy production, blood clotting, and muscle contraction. So lack or improper function of these enzymes can result in disease. So we'll talk more about enzymes in a future video, but for the purpose of today, with enzymes being proteins, just remember that enzymes are protein that allow key chemical reactions to take place in the body. Now, the fifth thing that proteins do for us is they bolster immune health. Proteins help form immunoglobulins or antibodies to fight infection. So antibodies are actually proteins in your blood that help protect your body from harmful invaders like bacteria and viruses. Now, when these foreign invaders try to enter your body produces antibodies that tag them for elimination. Without these antibodies, bacteria and viruses would be free to multiply and overwhelm your body with disease. So once your body has produced an antibody against a particular bacteria or virus, your cells never forget how to make them. So this is the amazing part. This allows the antibodies to respond quickly the next time that you are exposed to a particular disease agent that invades your body. And as a result, your body develops immunity against the diseases to which it is exposed to. So this is along the line, or the principle that most immunizations are based on, is it's a purposeful exposure to a small amount of a virus or a bacterial, rather than that natural exposure that you get out by being out in public and maybe catching a cold or whatever. So with immunizations or vaccines, there's this purposeful exposure to a small amount of the virus or bacteria, which then your body will create antibodies against and create immunity to that. So like chickenpox is a great example of this. It used to just be that people built antibodies for chickenpox through natural exposure. And there was even a time when if you found out if somebody their child had chickenpox, you may go and purposely expose your child to chickenpox so that they would get them. And then, they would build immunity. Now today there's, a vaccine for chickenpox, the varicella vaccine. And so it does the same thing, just in a different way, by that purposeful exposure to that, to the varicella or herpes virus that creates chickenpox. So just, kind of to roll that up, is really the thing to remember is that proteins form antibodies to protect your body from foreign invaders, such as disease-causing bacteria or viruses. Now, the sixth thing that proteins do for our body is they help maintain a proper pH. So protein plays a vital role in regulating the concentrations of acids and bases in your blood and other bodily fluids. So the difference between acids and bases is measured using the pH scale, And the pH scale ranges from 0 to 14, with 0 being the most acidic, 7 being neutral, and 14 being the most alkaline. So when we think about things like this, examples of pH value of common substances would include things like, a pH value of 2. So again, that's going to be more acidic. That would be things like your stomach acid, vinegar, lemon juice. pH 4 would be something like tomato juice. A pH of 5 would be water that's created, from a soft water system. Black coffee. A pH of 7.4. So just this little side of neutral would be human blood. And a pH of about 9 would be baking soda. So here we're getting into our very alkaline type products. pH of 10 would be if you went and took a sample from the Great Salt Lake or had milk of magnesia. Those are both very alkalinic. pH of 12 could be soapy water. So a variety of buffering systems allows your bodily fluids to maintain the normal pH ranges, and we want that to really be right around 7.4. A constant pH is necessary, as even a slight change in your pH can be harmful or potentially deadly to you. So one way that your body regulates this pH is with proteins. An example is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that makes up red blood cells. Hemoglobin binds to small amounts of acid and helps to maintain the normal pH value of your blood. The other buffering systems in your body include things like phosphate and bicarbonate. So again, the important thing to remember with this is just that proteins also act as a buffering system. And they help keep your body at that proper pH value of the blood and other bodily fluids. Now, the seventh thing that proteins do for us is it helps balance our fluid. So proteins regulate body processes to maintain fluid balance. Albumin and globulin are proteins in your blood that help maintain your body's fluid balance by attracting and retaining water. If you don't eat enough protein, your levels of albumin and globulin eventually decrease. Consequently, these proteins can no longer keep blood in your blood vessels, And the fluid is actually forced out into the spaces between your cells instead of being in the cells. And as as the fluid continues to build up in the spaces between your cells, swelling or edema occurs. You might have heard of this being called third spacing. And this can happen particularly down in the stomach region. You may have seen someone that has had problems, and that creates this huge stomach due to the edema and the swelling. There's actually a form of severe protein malnutrition called kwashiorkor. I probably pronounced that wrong. And it develops when a person is eating enough calories but does not consume enough protein. So it's pretty rare in the regions of the world, but it occurs more often in areas where there's starvation. So again, just keep in mind that proteins in your blood maintain the fluid balance between your blood and the surrounding tissues. Now, the 8th critical function that proteins do for our bodies is they act as a messenger. Now, some proteins are hormones, which are chemical messengers that aid communication between your cells, your tissues, and your organs. Now, these are made up and secreted by the endocrine tissues or glands and then transported to your blood to get to their target tissues or organs, where they will bind with the protein receptors on the cell's surface. Now, hormones can be grouped into 3 main categories. One is protein and peptides. So these are made again from the chain of amino acids, ranging from a few to several hundred. The second type are steroids, and these are made from fat cholesterol. The sex hormones such as testosterone and estrogen are steroid-based. And then the third category of hormones is amines, and these are made from the individual amino acids, so tryptophan and tyrosine, which help make hormones related to sleep and metabolism. So those affect your sleep and your metabolism. So proteins and polypeptides make up most of your body's hormones. So some examples of these type of hormones include things like insulin. So insulin is what is produced by the pancreas. So when you eat sugar or glucose, it signals the uptake of the sugar and the glucose into the cells. Or glucagon is another sample of proteins that are hormones. And these actually signal the breakdown of stored glucose in the liver. There's HGH, which is human growth hormone, and this stimulates the growth of various tissues, including bone. ADH, which is antidiuretic hormone, and this signals the kidneys to reabsorb water. Or ACTH, which is adenocorticotropic hormone, which stimulates the release of cortisol, which is a key factor in metabolism. So again, just to kind of wrap that up, what's important to remember is that amino acid chains of various lengths form proteins and peptides, which make up several of your body's hormones and transmit information between cells and tissues and organs. Now, for the last one that we're going to talk about today is that transports and stores nutrients. So transport proteins carry substances throughout your bloodstream, so into your cells and out of your cells and within your cells. Now, these substances transported by the proteins can include nutrients like vitamins and minerals, blood sugar, cholesterol, and oxygen. So, for example, hemoglobin is a protein that carries oxygen from your lungs to your body's tissues. Glucose transporters move glucose to your cells, while lipoproteins transport cholesterol and other fats to your blood. Protein transporters are specific, meaning they will only bind to specific substances. So in other words, a protein transporter that moves glucose will not move cholesterol, but it will only move glucose. Proteins also have storage roles. Ferritin is a storage protein that stores iron. Another storage protein is casein, which is the principal protein in milk that helps babies grow. So in summary, just think about this as some proteins transport nutrients throughout the entire body, while others will store them. So that's going to wrap up our discussion on, what do proteins do in our body? And next week, we'll continue our discussion about proteins to talk about, the different types of protein and what is the appropriate amount of protein to eat in your diet. And so we'll go into a few more details like that. So I hope you have a wonderful day today, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.